Well, hello everyone, and welcome to ScrivTalk, where we talk with Scrivenings Press authors about their books, writing journeys, and the stories behind their stories. I'm Liana George, author and co-owner of Scrivenings Press, and I'm so glad you've joined us today because I have the pleasure of welcoming Betty Woods to talk about the third book in her historical romance series, Troubles of the Heart. Betty writes heartwarming romance with a Southern accent, and who doesn't love that? She's an incurable history buff who was once mistaken for the tour guide at a historical site while answering her grandchildren's questions. We'll have to talk about that. And when not living in her make-believe 19th century world, she enjoys time with grandchildren and great-grand. So, Betty, welcome. I'm so glad to have you with us today.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, and you'll be really popular with your grandchildren too.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah. Grandma's on a podcast and a YouTube video. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let's kind of before we jump into the questions, I want to go back to what I just mentioned in your bio was tell me the story behind this uh being mistaken for a tour guide.
okay. If you go to the Yellowstone area, and we were in Cody, Wyoming, there's a village of old cabins and even Butch Cassidy Sundance Kids cabin,
Okay.
balloon with the bullet holes, walls, everything. And the kids started asking questions about all different implements and things in the cabins, and had no clue what a lot of that was. Well, I research
Yeah.
time. And so I was answering questions about different things in some cabins, and a couple ladies walked in and was to me for the tour guide. Mom, you should have told them yes, and then you were yes. But there's to go to sites like that. Grandma, that.
That's so cute. That's so cute. Well, that's hilarious. I love stories like that. I love to hear those kind of things. So let's talk about your stories though, because that's what readers are really here for. And I want to, before we go forward with your third book, which is releasing soon, I want to talk about the first two in the series. So for readers who are new to the Troubles of the Heart series, how would you describe the series as a whole?
Well, it's first of all set in around the in and out of Spurrow, Tennessee, which is close to Nashville.
Okay.
In the first one is in like the early 1830, 1832, 33. And the next one picks up a year, so just a few months after that one. And so Eugenia and Paul started out and secret friendship because she's the daughter of the plantation owner.
Mm,
He's the overseer's son, who's an abolitionist.
mm,
So of course that friendship can't be anything but secret. And when it turns into love, then Eugenia has to decide, is she going to stick with this her luxury life that she knows, or risk, love, and not maybe be promised much of anything else with Paul.
mm.
And so she had the treasure and trouble title from,
Oh,
because she has to make a choice and
ah,
decide which way to go.
yeah.
And so, yeah, book two picks up then with Eugenia's best friend, uh, Clarice, who had helped her elope with Paul.
Mm.
And the man, what made it interesting when I got this idea is the hero is the man, Luke, that Eugenia had turned down.
Oh.
And so they've both got past her, and things they've got to work through. So Clarice is still grieving her late fiance,
Mm.
and Luke, of course, is dealing with bitterness and anger, and he wants nothing to do with Clarice because he's sure she had to have helped her best friend, avoid him.
Yeah.
So their little uneasy alliance, when that unexpectedly, comes love, and then she has to decide, well, I tell him what I really think of his slaves and things, or but if she, she keeps quiet to herself, and so they have to decide what they will or won't with, and can they go around it,
Yeah.
or if you're gonna just end things.
Yeah. Well, both lovely stories. What inspired the series altogether? I mean, was there something that,
Um, well, we made a couple of trips in the years past to the area, and I just fell in love with. I'm a history buff, as you know, so my fun thing is to go to the sites,
Mhm.
and I just fell in love with the area.
Mm.
We found we'd gone to a couple of different houses. The stories behind those houses were so interesting to me, and I just started turning them into stories in my head.
Uh-huh. Like all true authors do.
And really, though, the what inspired this series is what's going to be book four.
No.
It was this was book four is loosely based on a horrendous story I wrote 30 years ago to see if I write a book. And that one was even more loosely based on a handwritten story from high school.
Oh, okay.
And so the deeper I got into what will be book four, the parents' story in the background, which is Paul and Eugenia,
Mm.
just it wouldn't let me go. And the more I kept thinking, how you have to dig through and get your backstory straight,
Sure.
so this makes sense. And they were just so interested. I thought, okay, we're going to do this, and I set that one aside. And then you do the friend because, oh, that would be interesting. What if? Because obviously they don't care for each other at all.
Yes.
Uh, since Luke is so sure that Clarice was Eugenia's helper.
Mm.
And I thought that'd be an interesting dynamic. We'll
Yes.
see what happens there. And so it just took off. I did. It's a beautiful area,
Yeah.
and it's so rich in history out in there. And I found all kinds of things. So it
Oh,
just kind of grew.
ah, okay. Okay. Now you say you're a history buff. Are there certain time periods within history that you lean more to, or are you everything is fair?
Well, I guess really, if the story is interesting enough, and I can just come up with a premise of some kind, because this is 1830s.
Hmm.
The first series is 1860s and early 1870s Texas,
Okay.
and it's Western. So it's just, how do you explain a writer's mind?
You can't.
I have tried, and people who don't write look at me like, okay.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So it's they just the ideas just kind of and hit me, I guess.
Yeah. So, sadly, the 1980s that I grew up in is becoming history now. And I'm just like,
Yes.
it's no longer contemporary, it's historical fiction.
Uh-huh.
Like, wait a minute, what happened? It just was like a blink of an eye ago. What are you talking about? History. So, yeah, but
I had a terrific high school history teacher, and
mm,
she kind of hooked me.
yeah,
And I don't know, but I just zeroed in, I guess, in the 1800s right now.
yeah.
I have a hard time thinking of anything after World War II as historical.
I know, right?
Yeah, I can do World War II historical if I were to go into that, because that goes back to my parents,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah.
I know. It was like, come on, that's not I know. Because I will read anything. I mean, I read widely. But when it comes to history, I usually do stop around World War II, right? And I don't really go like earlier than World War II because I'm thinking, well, it's all contemporary. But now, as history is creeping into my contemporary, I'm like, I may have to rethink all of this.
Oh,
All right, well, let's talk about Angelique because she does appear in book two before becoming the heroine of book three. So, when did you know she needed a story of her own?
well, her personality is just, and the way she just so irritated Luke, but and at the same time, uh, I would call her vivacious, aggravating vivacious, or something along that line. And he fell in love with his little cousin in spite of himself almost.
Yeah.
And but the more she, uh, kind of edging him into doing what he needed to do and telling him what to do, and her really just lives. Her personality is one of those people that she's going to get the most out of everything.
Mm.
And yay that she was treated, and Luke and Clarice had to step in and protect her. I thought she really deserves some kind of happy ending here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so I thought, let's do that. She should. She's been through so much.
Yeah.
Give her a story where she really gets what the kind of happiness she deserves.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's a perfect setup, right, for the next book. And so she's been hurt, she's cautious, she's trying to protect the people she loves. And then Nathaniel comes in with troubles of his own, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is exactly what every peaceful household needs. So, uh, one more charming man with a complicated past. What romance isn't, full of those? So, what can readers expect from book three before we dig into the specifics?
Well, it's a continuation in some respects because you get to also see Luke and Clarice a little bit as minor characters,
Okay.
and a mention or two maybe of the people in the first book. So you kind of know a little bit about maybe what happened with them,
Hmm.
but not get, it's not deep in there. And I just really wanted to set it up for Angelique so that I'm a happy ending person, so I wanted to make her happy.
Yep. Yep.
So
Okay. We all want a happy ever after.
that's what I prefer.
Yeah.
you know, uh, I, I'm like you. I read almost anything that's a good story,
Sure.
but I'm still, you hook me on a happy ending and you're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. I think we've been trained as readers for that, right? I think we've ever since we were little kids watching Disney movies, right? With prince and
Mhm.
princesses and they're happily ever after. So we get that from a very early age and we still want to see that. And then there are times when the story doesn't have a happy ever after, but it's still a satisfying ending. And that's okay. That's okay. Yeah.
But it's just it's similar set. It when thanks Luke's parents' house is the main setting, and so it's just like a continuation in some respects
Mm.
uh, for the that family, the people you've gotten to know. So you do get that satisfying wrap up of the third of Angelique in this as the third character.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I like to tie up loose ends if I can. It's fun.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think you hit it. It's like comforting, right? Book three can kind of be comforting because you're just bringing all of those same characters and all that same storyline kind of, but giving it a new angle, a new twist. And readers like that kind of comfort. So,
Well, and like I said, as much as that poor lady went through in book two,
yeah.
she really deserved
Yeah.
something better than what happened in everything that happened in book two.
Sure, sure. Well, and that's interesting because it leads into my next question. She's been deeply shaped by dishonesty and disappointment. So, how does that affect the way she sees Nathaniel when he first arrives?
Mm-hmm. Well, to her and her way of thinking, Nathaniel is almost like the embodiment of everything bad from every man almost that's happened to her. He
Mm,
reminds her of her uh, father who dodged one scandal and then another until he was killed in a duel.
mm,
And he's in the shipping business, family shipping business. Nathaniel comes from a family with a shipping business. And of course, he's running from gossip. And she's not so sure if it's innocent or not,
Mm,
no matter what he said, because she's been conditioned from everything with her father and the man that deceived her too in the other second book. She's not trustful at all,
mm,
to the point that Luke even has to explain to people in the third book, no, she's not in some respects like she used to be. She's been hurt
yeah. Yeah.
and she's been through a lot. And
Yeah.
when someone mentions that,
Yeah.
and so from her perspective, I mean, all they got is a letter from Nathaniel's parents, her uncle's brother, telling them what happened and sending him their direction. And that's the closest thing to proof
Mm,
that at Nathaniel's innocence. Well, she doesn't know. Who did he fool? Who did he lie to?
right.
And she's afraid he's too much burden for her elderly uncle with his bad health. And she just he can leave at any time.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's true for our characters as it can be true in life, is that once a trust is broken, it's very hard to restore, you know.
Yes.
And
And
so,
that's what she's dealing with. She's been and first time she tried to trust anybody again in the two, then they betrayed her again.
yeah.
And so she's really leery now, and to some extent doesn't even trust her own judgment.
Hmm. I understand that feeling too.
And so she's got some deep scars because of what she's been through.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's always, I mean, I know this sounds awful to people probably listening or watching who are readers, but that's where we want our characters to be. We want them to be in a hard place because we want to see them grow and change
Mm-hmm.
throughout the book. So it is a hard place for her to be, but it's good. Um,
Well, to find the story a bit true to what had happened in the second book and what she went through, I had to start that way if I was going to be true to her story.
Yeah, and I love that. I mean, I love that you're thinking about her as I mean, these are just characters that we just make up in our minds, but to us as the writer and the author, they're real people, right? And we
I
want,
can tell you what her voice sounds like.
can you?
Yes, my
I,
husband didn't know understand that when I told him one time. They get to be, you get in their heads and they're real.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, talking about getting into heads, let's talk about Nathaniel because, like you said, he's running from some damaging rumors, and he's got to come to, you know, understand whether or not he's going to run from his problems or if he's going to face them. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, it's that fight or flight, right? And we all have that ingrained in us. So, what kind of growth is he going to experience in this story as he's not only dealing with the rumors, but wrestling with this? Do I face it or do I just keep running?
That was a really fun thing to do to help him see him grow.
Mm,
Because he only came to Tennessee. He really wanted to stay and face the rumors to begin with, and his parents insisted that it was best for him to leave for a while. So he did it to honor his parents.
mm,
But of course, the more he thinks about it, prays about it, the preacher goes through touches on the armor of God and standing and fighting. It
mm,
really convicts him,
yeah,
and he has to think about that as to what he's going to do because letting his 50 something fight his battles if he stays there.
yeah,
And but then he also has to realize that if he had behaved differently in Charleston, those rumors might have even been believed. He brought some of this on himself because of the way he used to treat the ladies in Charleston. He had the reputation as a really cavalier lady.
mm,
And so they were so ready to believe those false rumors about him.
mm.
And he realizes, no, he has to change that. So he decides to start with Angelique. And then he has pretty shallow motives at first. He's just, well, he needs something to do. He's bored in this little country area where it's too quiet to even sleep.
Mm.
Because, well, maybe he can just win her work as far as arranging her idea of him, and it's something for him to do.
Yeah.
And the more he learns about her and sympathy for her, then he decides, I really like to not just kind of win her over as a friend, maybe, but also help her heal. And so he's thinking of somebody beside himself, and that by the time he does leave, she would be ready maybe to love someone else again.
Mm.
And so that becomes a goal.
Mm. Mm.
So he's really beginning to learn that what he was doing was not the way he should have handled it, and that he's going to do things differently.
Yeah, that's good. And we want to see that in our characters and in the story. So how do you approach the tension, right? Because of course it sounds easy. I'm going to go do this with Angelique, and of course she's just going to fall under my spell and do everything. And of course we know she's not because of her past, and you got his past, and they're all trying to come together. So how do you approach that tension between love and protection and independence and learning to trust each other?
Well, I had to. It's a balance, but really and truly, that's what life is too. And
Mm.
if you're going to write a real life story, you've got that tension between love, trust, and the things like that that they're dealing with.
Uh-huh.
Because true love means trust and it's risky. And you've got the balance between the two of them where she's ready for him to leave yesterday.
Yeah.
And he really doesn't want to stay there, but he's got to. And the he can't understand why she can't stand him for no reason.
Yeah.
And so the back and forth between them at first is almost like a verbal joust.
Mm. Yeah.
Because neither one of them wants to be with the other.
Yeah.
And so but balancing that tension, that really is to me, it is, it's a real life type situation.
Mm. Yeah.
And that if you're going to keep the story realistic, even though it's made up,
Yeah.
and there
Yeah.
is that, there's a balance in real life like that too.
True.
And you've got to keep your perspectives and what's really important, and think things through. But at the same time, you've got to trust,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's risky.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, the older I get, the more I realize that balance in everything, our life, what we
Mm-hmm.
eat, how we handle our emotions, all of that is just really what it's all about. So, it's hard sometimes to manage, but it's always necessary and usually turns out for the best in the end.
Yeah, and that makes for a good story when you're trying to put these pieces together,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
at the same time, make it also a realistic type piece,
Hmm.
and that way they're not just flat cardboard type people either.
Yeah. And I mean, as much as people want to read for entertainment, right? For maybe for an escape, when you have a story that does what you're trying to do, right? To make a
Mm-hmm.
fictional world become realistic. I mean, I think that's very powerful and very deep because if you're not doing it right and doing it well, then it doesn't resonate with the reader. But when you do,
Uh-huh.
it can be very powerful and life-changing. Even they may not even realize it when they're reading.
Yeah, and I think that's the sign to me. I like reading books like that,
Yeah.
where they don't have to hit you over the head with it.
Hmm.
But at the same time, you see, oh, it might even inspire someone. Okay, maybe I can take the chance and let's try trusting, forgiving, because they both, Angelique especially, has to deal with forgiveness
Yeah.
and things. And can I do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and so it's to weave that all in. And sometimes I have to go back and do some rewrites because it wasn't clear.
No, you have authors are supposed to rewrite their stuff.
Oh, yes, I do.
I remember somebody telling me this, and I remember telling this to my girls when they were in school, and they would give me their papers, and I would edit them, and they're like, "Oh, mom," and I'm like, "All good writing is rewriting, you know."
Mhm.
And so yeah, we do that. Okay, well, I don't want to sit too long because I've got some other questions. But I want to talk about this phrase you use, thorns and all, because it becomes very meaningful in Angelique and Nathaniel's relationship. So, what is it about that image, and what does it represent?
Well, when Nathaniel hands her those roses and says thorns and all, because they have both by this time both been through quite a bit, and they've kind of taken turns really aggravating, not just aggravating, they pretty much hurt each other.
Hmm.
And so she's learned his flaws, he knows hers, and it's a he's willing and wants her acceptance, thorns and all. He's willing to accept her thorns and all. It the rose, I love pictures of that because a rose is just one of the most beautiful flowers, and the fragrance, everything about them is just wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason they use them in, the roses for love, and all things for symbols. And the rose has thorns that will just cause enough wounds to bring blood.
Yes.
And so you got both aspects of that beautiful rose. And that's what he says. Can we do this? The thorns, the wounds, everything combined, and let's, the beautiful rose too,
Yeah.
and have both.
Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. What about faith? Because it's woven throughout this whole series, right? And how does it shape the characters, decisions, relationships, and growth?
Okay, that me, that's Angelique's faith at times has been tested, and she has to really struggle, especially with forgiveness. And she has some times where when she sees other people, I don't want to be like that.
Hmm.
Especially run across one guy in the book that I won't give it away,
Sure. No, we don't want any
and
spoilers. Yeah.
things where I don't want to become that person.
Yeah.
And so she has to struggle with that more than once, of course, and struggling with the trust, especially as she starts to deal with, well, can I trust Nathaniel? And the strength to do that, she realizes that can't come from herself.
Hmm.
She has to have help from God with that. And of course, Daniel's journey is faith based. But when he decides to stand and fight, and he's got to go back to Charleston, and he does a lot of praying about, well, what does he do with Angelique?
Hmm.
And he has to have guidance on that, on what to do, how he handles that. What if he's wrong and he has to go back by himself?
Hmm. Yeah.
And things that he just has to turn over to God that he can't control.
Yeah.
And I like too, in any of my books, when people are knocked down like that, because we all get, instances where we even doubt God, and to encourage people to just know he's, and you've got to keep on. And that's what I like to do when I show what they've been through,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, because that's life too.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, a historical romance is, you've got the reality of the time period and you've got the love story. So what, like you said, you're a history buff, you love to do research, you do a lot of research. Um, What did you research or what historical details shaped this series?
Well, the first thing I did on the vacations and trip was to look at the houses from that era.
Uh-huh.
I went to Murfreesboro, and they have a lot of restoration plus an old Murfreesboro town.
Okay.
And so I have lots of pictures.
Okay.
And then when I walked into one of them, I found on the internet, well, it was the actual house for Dr. Manny that they mentioned in the book.
Oh,
Their doctor was a real, I got that out of my, research, the name for the real doctor.
yeah.
And I went bananas in there, and they pulled the rope since there was nobody else in the house hardly, and they found out what I wanted. They pulled the ropes back and let me roam.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
then, we went through the area, and there's places where we could hike and walk. So I went through the woods where they would ride. And one of the critique partners said, "Oh, I felt like I was there." And I thought, yes, yes, that's what we're doing here. I like to bring the details to life
Mm, yeah.
and make, because that's where those my characters are.
Yeah.
So I try to make it as real as I can, and as real to the era as
Yeah.
I can.
Right.
I see roamed, I don't know how many different places I have been,
Oh, yeah.
and but that's fun for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Uh,
and that, I mean, I think anytime you have it to where a reader can say, I felt like I was there, right? You've done your job setting the stage and bringing back to life a period that none of us would really understand, or a place that none of us have ever may have not been to, and allowed them to be there, which is really very, very good.
I have copies of all newspapers.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And, bunches and bunches of photos and
Well,
things like that. So, and I try to keep it as historically accurate as I can.
yeah. So, how much time would you say do you spend researching before you start writing?
Oh, for the first book in the series, when I got, because I have to stay true to the location, the time, everything. I don't know. I've never counted how many hours and books, and because I can get into the internet and get lost.
Yeah.
I learn enough that I have to be careful not to put enough in there that I start boring people.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
I think it was Trisha Goyer one time. She's a great writer, and
Uh-huh.
she said in her research she does enough to where she could just almost live there herself.
Mm.
And
And
so I think I kind of sometimes get close to that.
yeah. Do you do
Uh,
all your research before you ever start writing, or do you do a little bit and then start writing and then go back and do more as you need it?
Most of it, the bulk of it is probably before,
Hmm.
so I can get my settings and time frames and things accurate, and their clothing and that kind of thing. But every once in a while something comes up that, oh, because I don't write with outlines. I do literally see the pants almost.
Okay.
And so something will come up, and I needed to know, well, how did Luke put that revolver with his saddle? It's not going to fit in a saddlebag. Well, they have pommel holsters
Oh, okay.
designed specifically for the pommel on the saddle.
Oh, okay.
And
Interesting.
I had to go research that real quick. But see, that's where I was Chat GPT or Grok or
Yeah.
something like that. Type in a question, and lots of times they'll give you enough. And I needed to know if there were street signs in Charleston in
Oh,
1834
yeah.
when Daniel is going to Murfreesboro for the first time, and he's lost because he doesn't know how to find his way in the country.
Mm,
Landmarks.
yeah. Yeah.
He's referencing how lost he is. I had to find out if they had started in 1834 in
Yeah.
Charleston. They
Did
did.
okay.
Little things like that pop up
Right.
that you don't think about.
Yeah.
But the general stuff, yeah, I do a lot of research before I start book one.
Yeah. And I think two things that you said out of that. One, um, readers will catch you. I mean, especially history buff readers, right? If
Mhm,
you had put street signs in, they weren't there in 1834, somebody would have let you know, right?
mhm.
And so, for sure. But then again, it's just bringing the story even true to life when you add those details. And so I think it really does help make the story even stronger. Somebody might think, well, it's just a street sign, but they don't understand just
People,
it may seem so insignificant, but it's not, right? It really does add a lot. So I love that you do that. So all right, well, looking back over all three books, what theme or thread do you think ties the stories or the series together most strongly for you?
well, to me, it's the overall theme. I picked like the troubles of the heart for the series,
Hmm.
but it goes back to really what I said before because it's an overarching. Uh, don't give up. Keep uh, uh, because like Eugenia is learning about all things work together for good.
Hmm.
There's so much bad that happens, and she can't understand how God's going to turn any of that for good.
Yeah.
And yet that happens for her. He uses that. He also uses the things that happen to Luke and Clarice, because of course there's things there that are just really traumatic,
Yeah.
and yet he turns that for good, even if there is the trauma.
Yeah.
And so Angelique and Nathaniel have to deal with that too, because God didn't guarantee us, a stress-free life.
Nope, not at all.
And so that's what I try and pull out of these books is you've got to keep on, don't lose your faith.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very discouraging at times.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But when that verse about turning everything for good didn't mean those things were good to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they all have to learn that. And sometimes, like the rest of us, the hard way.
Oh, if we could just learn things the easy way, right?
Yeah. Well, if I made it everything all easy, hunky dory, then they really wouldn't be real.
Yeah,
Then the
exactly.
books would be worse than a little silly little cartoon.
Absolutely. I agree. I am all about putting my characters through the ringer. And when I read books and it's just all everybody's happy and it goes all their way and nobody fights. I'm like, come on, this isn't real. This is not how life works, right? And
Mm-hmm.
readers know that too, right? I mean, yes, we want happy stories, but there has to be some reflection of true life or it just doesn't feel believable. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know if I'm reading a not one of my favorite writers, okay, I know this whole thing was made up in their imagination.
Yeah.
But if it's not something that could happen, that I can really believe might happen, then
Yeah.
I don't get into those stories
Stories.
very
Yeah, you
well.
don't get very far with those kind of stories. No, not at all. Me either. Yeah. Well, what is it that when a reader, closes the book, and finishes book three, what is it that you hope that they take away after reading Angelique and Nathaniel's story?
Well, that is where my little happy ending philosophy, I guess, comes in.
Yeah.
No matter what, and using that. And I want them obviously to be satisfied with their story.
Yeah.
And I think I use one of my favorite verses is taste and see that the Lord is good. And I use my email signature as when life hands you lemons, don't just settle for lemonade.
Oh, I love that.
And then taste and see that the Lord is good.
Yeah.
And that's an overall theme I want people to take away when these people work through everything, that they do that and that they got things. It's not all together necessarily, or that wouldn't be real. It's a thorns and all situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I want them to see and take away from this. Like that can do with thorns and still roses.
Yeah. Well, I think after anybody reads the book or listens to this interview, we'll all look at roses differently now, for sure. Well, Betty, thank you so much for joining me today and for giving us such a great behind the scenes look at Troubles of the Heart series and the newest story, A Troubling Rogue. And, I really just enjoyed visiting with you and getting to know you as a writer as well. And I'm sure our listeners would too. Before we say goodbye, why don't you tell people how they can connect with you?
I'm on Facebook. My author page is Betty Woods Author, and then you can find me Betty Woods Write on X. I'm on Pinterest, and so right about now I'm experimenting with some other things, but I'm not ready to put those out yet. My granddaughter teach me Instagram.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yep. It's a beast on its own for sure. For sure. So,
It's
well,
my next step.
yeah. Well, I hope people will connect with you. Will sign up for your newsletter and listen each time you share with them. That they will enjoy hearing from you as well. So, everybody, be sure to check out book 3 in the Troubles of the Heart series if you enjoy heartwarming historical romance filled with faith, family, and healing, and characters learning to love each other, thorns and all. So, thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Scriv Talk. As always, if you enjoyed, please be sure to subscribe, like, tell your friends, leave us a comment. All of that helps us get seen by more people. So, thank you very much for doing that. And like I said, be sure to check out Betty's books, all of them. She's got another series as well. It's Trails. What is that one?
Girls of the Heart.
Trails of the Heart. I knew it was Trails, but it was
Uh-huh.
coming to me. So be sure to check out all of Betty's books because I can promise you, you will not be disappointed. So until next time, we'll see you on Script Talk. Happy reading. Bye bye.
Thank you.